Okay, let's take care of these two in the same video. Um, Copy and mark the figure to show the given information. We're going to start with number 11. And actually, I'm going to do number 11 and number 12 separately. I'm going to just quickly paste in a second image of this diagram so we can do it here too. So give me a second. Okay, we'll use that one for number 12. So we'll do number 11 here. And what information do we have? We're given that PK is congruent to QK. PK, QK, congruent. And we are told that KL, this side running down the center, bisects angle PKQ at the top. And what that means then is we have two congruent angles there. We also know that, even though it wasn't told to us, so there we've copied and marked the figure with the given information. That's what you see with the given information. Now, explain how you would prove that angle P is congruent to angle Q. The first thing that we would do is we would identify this side as reflexively congruent to itself, and then through side angle side, we would prove the triangles are congruent, and then we could use corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent to say that that angle P is congruent to that angle Q. So that's what we would do for that one. And for the next one, we would say, okay, K is the perpendicular bisector of PQ. When you have a perpendicular bisector, you have a couple of things that we know from that. We know that the angles there are right angles, and we know that this PL is congruent to that QL. My video stopped for a second there. So this is what's given to us. And actually, I would say we can then, even though that information wasn't given, this information wasn't given to us, we know that, again, this side is reflexively congruent to itself. So we know that as well. Then we've got side angle side congruence. And we would then use corresponding parts of congruent triangles to prove that those angles are congruent. So we marked in black what we knew. Since it was a perpendicular bisector, we had the 90-degree angles down on the bottom. We would also, if we were writing a two-column proof, we would state, now that we know that that's 90 degrees and that's 90 degrees, we'd have to go one step further, and we would say, this angle is congruent to that angle because all right angles are congruent. That's something that we need to explicitly state instead of just implying it with the fact that they're both 90 degrees. We need to go one step further in proofs and say that that angle is congruent to that because all right angles are congruent. So anyway, what they gave us is that KL was a perpendicular bisector, so we know that that segment or that side is congruent to that segment or that side, and those angles are both 90 degrees and therefore congruent. And then adding in that that's reflexively congruent to itself, we have the triangles are congruent, and therefore those corresponding parts are congruent. We're done.